Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever been, speaking English and a word just gets stuck?
Oh, yeah.
It's right there, you feel it, but it just won't come out when you need it.
Mm-hmm. Happens all the time.
Or maybe you learn a new word, you think, great, and then tomorrow, poof, gone.
Vanished. Exactly.
So if you're looking for a way to make new English words actually stick, so you can use them confidently.
And understand more, too, right? When reading or listening.
Absolutely. Then this deep dive is definitely for you. We've been looking at some really interesting ideas, and one technique shared by someone named Riley, it really stood out.
Yeah. What's special about it?
Well, it seems simple, but also really powerful for building your English vocabulary every single day.
Okay.
And it only takes like a few minutes, but the results, they could be huge.
Sounds promising.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So that frustration you mentioned, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
Our brains are just constantly processing information, you see.
Yeah, fillable amount.
Right. Filtering things. Exactly. And they have to decide, what's important enough to keep handy and what can be. Well, filed away somewhere.
Okay.
Think of your brain like a massive storeroom.
A storeroom. Okay.
Yeah. The things you use constantly, your keys, your phone, they're right near the door, easy to grab.
Makes sense. Like the English words you use all the time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But new words, or words you don't use often.
Yeah.
Maybe you put them on a shelf way in the back.
Or even way up high, hard to reach.
Right. And when you're in a conversation or trying to understand something quickly and you need that word.
The one on the high shelf.
Yeah. It's slow. It's frustrating. You stumble.
Uh-huh.
So the goal with learning vocabulary isn't just like knowing the word exists.
Right.
It's moving it down to that easy-to-reach shelf so you can grab it automatically without thinking too hard.
And that's where this technique from Riley comes in, you're saying.
That's the idea.
A way to build those connections, bring the words down from that high shelf.
Mm-hmm.
The tool itself is called a vocabulary map.
A vocabulary map. Okay, so it's visual.
Yeah, kind of like a mind map. You might have seen those for brainstorming or organizing ideas.
Right, with the bubbles and lines connecting things.
Exactly. But this one is specifically designed for words. It helps you see all the different ways a single word connects to others.
And Riley suggests this visual, connected way of learning is really key, for making words stick.
That's what she suggests.
Okay.
Seems much more active than just, reading a list.
Okay, so how do you actually build one? Where do you start?
Good question. You start right in the middle of your page, or your screen if you're doing it digitally,
Okay.
with what's called a root word.
A root word, like the base of a word.
Exactly. The core part, the basic meaning that other words kind of grow from.
Right.
You could pick a word you just learned, or maybe even a word you already know a bit but want to understand better.
Okay, got the root word in the center. What's next?
So the first step, the first layer out from the root, is finding its word family.
Word family, like brothers and sisters for the word.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. You add bits to the beginning prefixes or bits to the end suffixes to your root word.
Ah, okay. To make related words.
Yes, and this helps you see how one basic idea, one root, can create a whole bunch of different words.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like if your root word is act, which basically means to do something, you can add endings like or to get actor, someone who acts.
Right.
Or ion for action, the process of acting.
Okay.
Or even a prefix like in for inaction, not acting.
I see. Activity, activist.
Exactly. All from that one rate act. Or let's take the word write.
Okay, right.
You get writer, written, writing, it's family.
Got it. So you branch out with these related forms.
Yeah. And Riley's tip here is maybe start simple. Just add the family members you already know for that root word.
Right. Don't overwhelm yourself immediately.
Exactly. You can always look up more later if you want to expand it.
And she mentioned adding definitions, too.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Right there on the map, next to each family word, maybe jot down a simple definition. And even better, a simple example sentence using it.
Ah, so you see it in context.
Right. Seeing it, defining it, using it in a sentence. It really helps build those brain connections, makes it more solid.
Okay, that makes sense. Word family first. What's the next layer for the map?
The next layer is really interesting. It's about how words like to hang out together in English.
Hang out together.
Yeah, they're called collocations.
Collocations. Okay, that might sound a bit technical for beginners.
Maybe the name sounds technical, but the idea is simple. It just means words that native speakers often use together naturally.
Okay. Like word partners.
Exactly, word partners. If you use the right collocations, your English just sounds, well, more natural. more fluent.
Even if the words themselves aren't super advanced.
Right. Think about it. We always say fast food.
Mm-hmm.
We don't usually say quick food, even though fast and quick mean similar things.
Right, fast food is just the standard phrase.
Yeah, that's the collocation. Or we throw a party.
Not make a party.
Usually not, no.
Oh.
Even though you do make cakes and decorations. But the phrase is throw a party. Learning these pairs or little groups is really important.
Okay, I get it. So it's like learning chunks of language, not just single words.
Exactly. So how would that work? For our example, write.
Well, for write, you'd think about words it commonly pairs with.
Like
Write plus a noun. You write a story.
Okay,
Or write a blog post, write an article. Those are common pairings.
got it. Nouns that follow write.
Yep. Or write plus an adverb, a word describing how you write. Like write beautifully.
Or write poorly.
Write enthusiastically, sure. And also write with prepositions. Little words like about or for. You write about something.
Or write for someone.
Exactly. Those are all collocations for write.
And adding those directly to the map.
Wow.
Yeah. That helps you remember how to actually use the word in a sentence?
That's the key. It's not just the meaning, it's the usage. It really helps move it to that easy shelf we talked about.
Definitely. Building those usage pathways. Okay, so word families, then collocations. What's next?
Building on that usage idea, the next step Riley mentions is adding phrasal verbs and idioms that use your root word.
Phrasal verbs. Those can be tricky.
They can be, because often the meaning changes quite a bit from the original verb.
Right.
So for write, you might have phrasal verbs like write off.
Write off. Meaning?
Well, it can mean deciding something is a loss or not important anymore, like writing off a debt. Or, like we'll see later, a car in an accident.
Okay.
Or write down. That's simpler. Just means to record something on
Like
paper.
notes. Yeah.
Or write up something. That often means preparing a more formal or detailed document, like writing up a report.
I see. So adding these helps understand those trickier meanings.
Exactly. And idioms, too. Idioms are even more, figurative.
Right. The meaning isn't obvious at all from the individual words.
Not usually. An idiom with write is, it's nothing to write home about.
I've heard that. It means something isn't very special.
Precisely. It's just, okay, average, not very impressive or exciting. Adding these phrasal verbs and idioms to your map helps you understand English as it's really spoken and written.
Okay, so we've got the word family, the collocations, its partners, the phrasal verbs and idioms. This map is getting quite full. What else?
Well, next you can branch out into words with similar meanings.
Synonyms.
That's right, synonyms.
So for write, you could add things like record, copy.
Yep. And pen, maybe as a verb, like to pen a letter. Print, draft, scribble.
Scribble, yeah, like writing quickly or messily.
Or take notes, compose, especially for music or formal writing, communicate in a written way.
Wow, lots of options.
Adding synonyms is great because it expands your choices when you speak or write.
Right, makes your English more interesting, less repetitive.
Exactly. It shows you there isn't just one way to say something. It adds color and variety.
That's really useful. So similar words. Are there opposite words too?
Yes, absolutely. The next step is adding antonyms, words with opposite meanings.
Okay, antonyms.
Now, Riley does suggest this step might be a little more challenging.
Oh.
Maybe better if you're not a complete beginner. Or perhaps something you come back to later.
So focus on the first few steps first if you're just starting out.
Probably a good idea, yeah. Build the foundation first.
Right.
But if you are ready, antonyms add another dimension.
So opposites for right, what would those be? Erase.
Erase is a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the opposite action, removing written marks.
Okay.
Delete is similar, but usually for digital text, right? Removing typed words.
Right. On a computer.
You can even argue ignore is an opposite, in a sense. If someone asks you to write something down to remember it, the opposite action is to ignore their request, not pay attention by writing.
That's an interesting one. It's about the purpose of writing.
Exactly. So adding antonyms helps you understand the full range of a word's meaning and how it fits with other concepts.
Okay, wow. So let me recap. We start with the root word in the middle.
Yep.
Then word family, its relatives. Then collocations, its partners.
Right.
Then phrasal verbs and idioms using the word.
Yeah, the tricky ones.
Then synonyms, similar words.
Expand your options.
And finally, antonyms, opposite words, maybe for later. That's a lot of connections.
It is. It really built a network. And there's one final step Riley suggests to make it even stickier.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Adding visual cues.
Yeah.
Simple drawings right on your map.
Drawings. Oh, no, I'm terrible at drawing.
Doesn't matter. Seriously, you don't need to be an artist. These drawings are just for you.
Okay. Why drawings?
They create another kind of link in your brain, a visual hook to help you remember the word or its meaning or how it's used.
Huh.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Remember write off, the phrasal verb.
Yeah, for like a bad debt or a damaged car.
Exactly. A common use is for a car that's so badly damaged in an accident, it's not worth repairing. It's a total loss, a write-off.
So next to write off on your map, you could just draw a really simple picture of a car that looks kind of broken or crashed.
Ah, I see. Just a quick sketch.
Yep. Or for compose, which we said is often used for writing music.
You could draw a musical note.
Perfect. A simple musical note.
Yeah.
Or for delete, maybe draw the little trash can icon or the delete key symbol from a keyboard.
Okay, I can manage that.
Yeah.
Simple icons.
Exactly. These little pictures are surprisingly powerful memory aids. They connect the word to an image.
So it's about creating this really rich, really connected network around each word. You see the root, its family, its partners, how it's used in phrases, words that are like it, words opposite to it, and even a little picture to jog your memory. That seems way more effective than just looking at a word on a list.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Because you're engaging your brain in so many different ways.
How so?
Well, visually, you're seeing the map. Logically, you're understanding the connections between the words. And you're being active. You're writing, you're drawing.
Multisensory learning.
Exactly. That multisensory approach builds much stronger memory traces. It helps pull those words down from the high shelf onto the easy-to-reach one, where you can actually grab them when you need them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
But the key, Riley really emphasizes this,
What's that?
is doing it regularly. Consistency.
Ah, not just once.
Right. Just say 10 or 15 minutes each day. Pick a word, start building its map.
You don't have to finish the whole map in one go.
No, not at all. You might just do the word family one day, add collocations the next. The power is in the daily habit, that consistent effort of building connections.
It sounds much more, well, active and engaging than just reading definitions or flipping flashcards.
It is. Flashcards have their place, but this makes the words feel more alive.
Yeah.
More connected to each other and to how you actually use the language.
Yeah.
And, consistently adding to your vocabulary like this, really understanding words deeply and how they connect, that's so fundamental to becoming truly well-informed in English.
How do you mean?
Well, when you come across complex ideas or new topics, maybe reading an article or listening to a discussion, having a strong, easily accessible vocabulary means you can grasp the details, the nuances, much more quickly and thoroughly.
Right. You're not constantly stopping to look things up or getting lost.
Exactly. So this simple daily habit, this map making, it directly supports that goal of gaining knowledge, of understanding the world through English more effectively.
So what does this all mean when you put it all together?
Well, it means by using this vocabulary map technique, you're not just like memorizing isolated facts, isolated words.
You're building a system.
Yes, a powerful interconnected system in your brain. And that system makes remembering and, crucially, using English vocabulary feel much more natural, much more automatic.
Less effortful.
Right. It's a really practical way to open up your world of expression and understanding in English.
That sounds incredibly valuable.
It really can be. Which, this raises an important question.
Yeah.
Riley suggested a great word to start with for your very first map could be the word laugh.
Laugh. Okay.
So think about it. What words could you add to a vocabulary map for laugh?
Well, the word family. Laughter.
Good start. Laughter. Yeah. What about collocations? Words that often go with laugh.
A loud laugh. Or maybe burst out laughing.
Excellent examples. You're already starting to build a map. Could you draw a simple picture for laugh?
Maybe just a smiley face or like, haha.
Perfect. Whatever works for you.
So the challenge for you, the listener, is maybe give this technique a try.
Why not?
Pick the word laugh, like Riley suggested, or maybe another word you've been wanting to learn or remember better, and just spend, 10 or 15 minutes today. Start building its map. See how many connections you can find.
You might be surprised how much comes out.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope this simple but potentially really powerful technique helps you bring those English words down from that high shelf.
And right into your everyday conversations.
Exactly.